When your cat stretches the moment they see you, do you actually know what that means? Most people think it's simple. The cat just woke up. Maybe their muscles feel stiff. Maybe they're loosening their back after a nap. It looks ordinary. Almost routine. But here's the strange part most owners never stop to question. If that stretch were only about the body, why does it happen exactly when you walk into the room? Why not 30 seconds earlier? Why not 5 minutes before you appeared? Cats spend up to 16 hours a day resting, so they have plenty of time to stretch whenever they want. And yet, many of them wait for a very specific moment, the moment you arrive. That timing isn't random. In fact, some feline behavior researchers describe this as a form of social stretching, a body signal triggered not by stiff muscles, but by recognition. In other words, when your cat lifts its front paws forward and arches its back the instant it notices you, there's a good chance it's reacting to your presence, not just its own body. And once you start noticing this pattern, something even more interesting begins to appear, because this tiny movement might actually be one of the quietest ways your cat communicates with you. Now, here's where things start to get interesting. Think back to the last time this happened. You walk into the living room. Your cat notices you. Maybe their ears shift slightly. Their eyes follow you for a moment. And then almost on cue, they stretch. Front paws reach forward. Their back arches gently. Their tail lifts just a little. To most people, it looks like nothing more than a physical reset. But feline behavior researchers have noticed something unusual about this pattern. When stretching happens right after a cat acknowledges a familiar human, it may serve a social function rather than a purely physical one. Some behaviorists refer to it as a social stretch, a subtle piece of cat body language that appears when a cat recognizes someone it trusts. Instead of saying hello with words, cats often greet through posture and movement. Dogs wag their tails. Birds chirp. And cats stretch. The body extends. The muscles lengthen. And the posture briefly becomes open and exposed. That openness matters. In the animal world, exposing your body is a small signal of comfort. Your cat is essentially saying, I see you, and I'm relaxed enough to move freely around you. And once you start noticing this greeting ritual, you may realize it happens more often than you ever thought. What makes this behavior even more fascinating is that it may not have existed the way we see it today thousands of years ago. When cats first began living alongside humans, roughly 9,000 to dice, 000 years ago. When early farming communities appeared, they didn't arrive with a full communication system designed for people. That language developed gradually. Over generations, domestic cats adapted their behavior in subtle ways so humans could understand them better. One well-known example is vocalization. Adult cats rarely meow at other adult cats in the wild. That sound is primarily used by kittens calling their mothers. Yet with humans, adult cats meow constantly, because over time they discovered it works. Another example is the slow blink, a soft closing of the eyes that many researchers interpret as a relaxed social signal directed toward people. Stretching when a familiar person appears may belong to that same family of behaviors. A study published in the journal Animal Cognition suggests domestic cats have developed a unique set of interaction patterns specifically for communicating with humans. These include eye contact, body positioning, tail movement, and subtle posture changes. In other words, when your cat stretches as you walk into the room, it may not just be a reflex. It could be part of a communication system that evolved because humans became part of a cat's social world. There's another layer to this behavior that most people never realize. And it has nothing to do with muscles at all. Your cat's paws contain small scent glands that release chemical signals called pheromones. These glands sit between the paw pads. And when a cat presses or stretches its paws against a surface, tiny amounts of scent can be left behind. Humans can't smell these signals, but other cats can detect them instantly. In the feline world, scent is a powerful form of communication. It marks territory, signals familiarity, and helps define what feels safe. So when your cat stretches near you on the couch where you usually sit, on the bed where you sleep, or right at your feet, it may be doing more than just extending its body. It may be quietly placing its scent into that space, to another cat. That invisible message might read something like, "This place is familiar. This place is safe." And if that stretch happens right beside you, the message becomes even more interesting. Your presence becomes part of that scent landscape. In a subtle way, your cat could be marking the moment and the space you share together, not as possession in an aggressive sense, but as a quiet declaration of comfort. You belong in the territory your cat considers home. If you live in a household with more than one person, you may have already noticed something curious. Your cat doesn't behave exactly the same around everyone. Maybe it walks past one person without much reaction. But the moment you sit down on the couch, it suddenly stretches right in front of you. At first, this can seem random, but feline behavior studies suggest it rarely is. Cats are surprisingly selective when it comes to social bonds. They pay attention to patterns: who moves calmly, who speaks gently, who respects their space. Over time, those small patterns shape trust. Researchers observing multi-person households have found that cats often develop a stronger behavioral response toward one particular human. That person receives more eye contact, more slow blinks, more vocal sounds, and sometimes more body language signals like stretching or rolling. In other words, the stretch may appear more frequently around the person the cat feels most comfortable with. It's not a performance, and it's not a trick. It's simply a moment when the cat's body relaxes in the presence of someone familiar. And when that happens repeatedly around you, it's a small but meaningful sign that your presence fits naturally into your cat's sense of safety. There is another moment when this stretch appears that many cat owners experience without ever thinking much about it. It happens in the morning. You open your eyes. Maybe you shift slightly under the blankets. And somewhere nearby, your cat begins to move. Then it happens. Front paws reach forward. The back arches slowly. And the body stretches out right beside you. At first glance, it looks like the same simple stretch cats do after sleeping. But the timing tells a slightly different story. Cats are naturally crepuscular, meaning they tend to be most active around dawn and dusk. While you are asleep, your cat may have already been awake for a while, moving around the house, watching the environment, or quietly observing the room. Yet the stretch often waits until the moment you wake up. Behaviorists sometimes describe this pattern as a greeting ritual, one small signal that marks the beginning of interaction. The cat has noticed you are awake again, and the stretch becomes part of that transition. It's almost like a quiet good morning in feline body language. And once you start noticing it, you may realize that your cat seems to save this particular stretch for the moments when your day together begins. At some point, almost every cat owner experiences the same moment. You're walking toward the kitchen, heading down the hallway, or moving across the living room, and suddenly your cat appears right in front of you. Then, almost theatrically, it stretches. Front paws reach forward. The body lengthens across the floor, and the entire posture spreads out exactly where you were about to step. It feels like perfect. Inconvenient timing. But cats are far more aware of space and movement than most people realize. They learn the patterns of your home, where you walk, when you move, and how you travel from room to room. So when a cat stretches directly in your path, it often isn't accidental. It's a position that guarantees your attention. You can't walk forward without noticing them. In the feline world, attention doesn't always come through loud signals. It often comes through subtle placement. By stretching where you must pause, your cat briefly becomes the center of your focus. And in many homes, the result is exactly what the cat predicted. You stop. You look down. And for a moment, the entire rhythm of the room slows around that single stretch. By this point, you might be thinking about your own cat and wondering something slightly different. What if your cat never stretches when it sees you? What if you've watched carefully and realized that this moment simply doesn't happen in your home? The first thing to understand is that this doesn't mean your cat dislikes you. And it certainly doesn't mean your bond is broken. Cats express comfort in many different ways, and stretching is only one of them. But behavior, researchers have noticed two common reasons why this signal sometimes disappears. The first is environment. If a cat feels uncertain because of loud noises, constant interruptions, or unpredictable movement, it may hold its body a little tighter and show fewer relaxed signals. The second reason is response. Communication works best when it receives feedback. If a cat stretches near someone several times and nothing happens, the behavior may slowly fade. But when the moment is noticed and acknowledged, even with something simple like a calm voice or gentle eye contact, cats often repeat it more frequently. Over time, these small interactions help build the quiet rhythm of trust between a cat and its human. So the next time you walk into a room and your cat stretches the moment it notices you, pause for just a second before walking past. To us, it looks simple, just a body loosening after rest. But in the quiet language of feline behavior, that small movement can carry a little more meaning than it seems. It may be a greeting, a signal of comfort, or simply a moment where your cat's body relaxes because someone familiar has entered its world. Cats rarely communicate in loud or obvious ways. Instead, they rely on posture, timing, and tiny changes in movement. And the stretch is one of those subtle signals. Once you begin to notice it, you may start seeing other quiet messages your cat sends every day through a slow blink, a gentle tail flick, or the way it chooses to sit beside you. Because sometimes the strongest connection between a cat and its human is spoken without a single sound.